The sun beat down on the vast African plains, turning the golden grass into a sea of shimmering waves that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. In the heart of this sweeping landscape, a small herd of elephants moved with quiet grace despite their massive size. Among them was little Kibo, a 3-month-old calf whose wobbly legs still struggled to keep pace with his mother Nia's measured strides. Kibo's large ears flapped playfully as he wove between the protective legs of the adult elephants. His curious trunk reached for everything: a butterfly, a tuft of grass, his mother's tail, exploring the world with the wonder that only the very young possess. The herd was his safety, his family, his entire universe. "Stay close, little one," Nia seemed to say with a gentle nudge of her trunk, guiding Kibo back toward the center of the group when he wandered too far. The baby elephant trumpeted happily in response, his small voice carrying across the savannah. If you're enjoying this story so far, remember that nature's wonders deserve our protection. Let's continue following Kibo's journey together. The dry season had stretched longer than usual this year. The herd, led by the wise old matriarch Zuri, Kibo's grandmother, was traveling toward the distant river where water still flowed even in the harshest times. They had been walking for days, the adults growing thinner as they sacrificed their own comfort for the young ones. Kibo didn't understand the urgency of their journey. He only knew the joy of being alive, of feeling the earth beneath his feet, and the warm presence of his family all around him. When the herd stopped to rest during the hottest part of the day, he played in the dust, creating tiny clouds that sparkled in the sunlight. As evening approached, Zuri raised her trunk to smell the air. Her eyes narrowed with concern as she detected something troubling on the breeze. She made a low, rumbling sound that caused the other elephants to form a tighter circle. Nia quickly pulled Kibo against her side with her trunk, her body tense with sudden alertness. "What's happening, Mama?" Kibo's confused eyes seemed to ask as he pressed against his mother's warm skin. But she offered no playful trunk touch in return, only a protective stance that told him something was wrong. The herd began moving again, faster now, no longer stopping for the young ones to rest or play. The sun sank lower in the sky, painting the savannah in deep reds and purples. In the growing shadows, yellow eyes began to appear, first just a few, then more and more, moving parallel to the elephant's path. Lions. A large pride had spotted the elephant herd and identified the baby as a potential target. They kept their distance for now, knowing the danger of confronting adult elephants directly, but their patient stalking told a clear story. They were waiting for a mistake, a moment of separation. Night fell fully, and the elephants continued their urgent march. The lions followed silently, ghost-like shadows in the darkness. Kibo, exhausted from the day's-long journey, began to lag behind. Nia constantly nudged him forward, her own exhaustion evident in her slowing steps. Just before midnight, disaster struck. The terrain changed suddenly, dropping into a shallow ravine that the adults navigated easily. But Kibo, tired and moving too quickly to keep up, stumbled on the edge. With a frightened trumpet, he tumbled down the slope, rolling away from the protective circle of his family. The moment he landed, separated from the herd by the ravine's wall, the lions made their move. They sprinted forward, cutting off his path back to his mother. Nia's panicked trumpet split the night air as she tried to reach her baby, but several lionesses blocked her path. Kibo stood frozen in terror, his small body trembling as 5 lions slowly closed in around him. He could see his mother and the herd just 30 feet away, so close yet impossibly far with the deadly predators between them. He trumpeted frantically, his small voice high and frightened. "Mama! Mama!" his cries seemed to say as he backed up against a fallen tree, nowhere else to go. The adult elephants trumpeted and stamped, trying to scare off the lions, but the predators held their ground, confident in their advantage. The lead lioness crouched, muscles tensing for the fatal leap toward the cornered baby. Time seemed to slow. Kibo's terrified eyes reflected the approaching danger. His family's distressed calls echoed across the savannah. The lioness's muscles bunched, ready to spring. And then, the earth trembled. At first, it felt like a distant rumble, almost too faint to notice, but within seconds, it grew into a thunderous roar that shook the very ground. The lions paused, ears swiveling toward the new threat. From the darkness beyond the ravine emerged a massive shape, larger even than the adult female elephants. A great bull elephant, his tusks gleaming in the moonlight, charged toward the scene, with surprising speed for his enormous size. His trunk was raised high, his ears spread wide to make himself look even more formidable. This was Jabari, a solitary bull who roamed these plains alone. Known to local researchers as one of the largest elephants in the region, he typically avoided herds except during mating seasons, yet something, perhaps Kibo's desperate cries or some ancient protective instinct, had drawn him to this crisis. The lions scattered in all directions as nearly 6 tons of determined elephant bore down on them. The lead lioness leapt away just as Jabari's tusk sliced through the air where she had been standing. He positioned himself between the baby and the retreating predators, his massive form a living shield. Kibo, still shaking with fear, looked up at his unexpected savior. Jabari lowered his trunk briefly, touching the calf's head in a gesture that seemed to say, "You're safe now." Then he raised his head again, alert for any lions foolish enough to return. Nia wasted no time. With the lions dispersed, she hurried down the ravine toward her baby, her relief evident in her gentle rumbling calls. The reunion was tender, mother and child entwining their trunks, Kibo pressing against her legs as if trying to disappear into her safety. Jabari stood guard as the rest of the herd cautiously made their way down the slope to join them. Old Zuri approached the bull with respectful caution, her trunk extended in what appeared to be gratitude. The two giants stood face to face, seeming to communicate in the silent language that only elephants understand. When dawn broke across the savannah, something remarkable had happened. Jabari had not returned to his solitary wandering but was walking alongside the herd. Not in the center, he maintained a respectful distance but definitely with them, his watchful eyes frequently checking on little Kibo. The journey to the river continued, but the dynamic had shifted. The lions, having learned their lesson, no longer followed. Kibo now had not just one protector but two, his loving mother and the imposing bull who had saved his life. Days turned into weeks. The herd finally reached the life-giving river, where water flowed abundantly and fresh vegetation grew along the banks. Kibo regained his playful spirit, splashing in the shallows under his mother's watchful eye. And always nearby was Jabari, sometimes interacting with the younger elephants, sometimes standing apart, but always present. Researchers who monitored the elephant populations noticed this unusual arrangement. Bulls typically lived solitary lives or in loose bachelor groups, joining herds only temporarily. Yet here was Jabari, gradually being accepted into the family structure of Zuri's herd. They documented this rare behavior, amazed by how a moment of crisis had created an unexpected bond. One evening, as the setting sun painted the river in golden light, Kibo ventured closer to Jabari than ever before. The huge bull was drinking, his reflection rippling in the water. The baby elephant approached, cautiously, his trunk extended in curiosity. Jabari lowered his massive head, allowing the little one to touch his tusk with his trunk. Then, in a moment that the watching researchers would talk about for years, the great bull scooped water into his trunk and gently sprayed it over the calf in what looked remarkably like play. Kibo squealed in delight, his short legs splashing through the shallows as he returned the game, though his small trunk could only manage a tiny spray in return. Nia watched from nearby, her posture relaxed, trusting. As the weeks turned to months, the unusual family unit grew stronger. Jabari became something between a guardian and a mentor to Kibo, demonstrating how to strip bark from trees and find water hidden under dry riverbeds. The little elephant followed the bull with admiration, his steps becoming more confident, his knowledge of survival growing daily. The dry season finally broke with magnificent thunderstorms that transformed the parched landscape into a green paradise. Food became plentiful, and the herd's journey became less urgent, more a gentle wandering through their lush habitat. During one particularly beautiful afternoon, as sunlight filtered through acacia trees and painted dappled patterns on the ground, the herd rested in a peaceful clearing. Kibo, now noticeably larger and steadier on his feet, played a short distance away, practicing lifting small branches with his trunk. Without warning, the peaceful scene was shattered by a new danger. A pair of poachers, who had been tracking the herd for Jabari's impressive tusks, crept closer through the tall grass. Their rifles were raised, sights set on the magnificent bull who dozed unaware beneath a spreading tree. But Kibo had wandered downwind of the approaching humans. His sensitive trunk caught their unfamiliar scent, the smell of metal, gunpowder, and human sweat. Something instinctive in his young mind recognized danger. He let out a sharp, alarming trumpet that instantly roused the entire herd. Jabari was on his feet in seconds, his experienced senses quickly locating the threat that the baby had detected first. With a powerful warning rumble that seemed to shake the very air, he positioned himself between the poachers and the herd, particularly shielding Kibo and Nia. The startled poachers realized their cover was blown. The massive bull elephant was now facing them directly, his ears spread wide, tusks lowered in unmistakable threat. Behind him, the entire herd was mobilizing, females forming a protective ring around the youngest members. Faced with the united front of defensive elephants, the poachers knew their plan had failed. They fired a wild shot into the air before retreating hastily through the brush, abandoning their hunt. When the danger had passed, something remarkable happened. It was Jabari who approached Kibo first, gently touching the young elephant with his trunk as if checking that he was unharmed. Then, more surprisingly, the great bull seemed to lower his head in what looked almost like a gesture of respect. The little elephant who had once needed saving had now returned the favor. His alert senses and quick warning had protected not just Jabari, but the entire herd. That evening, as stars appeared in the vast African sky, the elephants gathered by a waterhole. Researchers observing from a distant hide captured extraordinary footage of Jabari, officially being accepted into the matriarchal family structure, something almost never seen in elephant society. Zuri, the old matriarch, performed a rare greeting ceremony, her trunk touching Jabari's in formal acceptance. The story of the baby elephant who was saved by an unlikely hero, only to become a hero himself months later, spread far beyond the scientific community. It became a symbol of the complex emotional lives of these extraordinary animals, their capacity for altruism, and their deep family bonds that could extend even beyond traditional structures. Today, visitors to the national park sometimes glimpse this unusual elephant family, the wise old matriarch, the protective mothers, the playful youngsters, and the magnificent bull who walks beside them rather than alone. And among them, growing taller and stronger each day, is Kibo, whose life was saved by an unexpected hero, and who proved that even the smallest among us can sometimes save those we love. Thank you for sharing this journey through the African savannah with me. In the circle of life, we're all connected, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. Just like Kibo, we may find strength and courage when we need it most, often from places we least expect.